Vice President Pence got them all riled up, touting tax reform at CPAC. Of course, this all sets the stage for how the Republicans are going to frame the midterm election debate. Is the economy, we know, at the win of the GOP's back, but how much will that help them? To GOP pollsters Chris Wilson, Lee Carter, and RealClearPolitics national political reporter Caitlin Huey-Burns. Caitlin, let me start with you because RealClearPolitics had this poll out this week and a generic midterm thing, and it's clear the Republicans are making a move, and it feels like what's powering that move is a greater enthusiasm about these tax cuts.
Right, exactly. Republicans have been trying to make the case, and they've been spending a lot of money out there trying to make these this legislation more popular, and they've been pointing to instances where people have been seeing an actual increase either through their own companies or elsewhere. And so you're seeing the numbers improve on that. I've also been talking to Democrats who say that they have lost ground to Republicans over the past few months because they haven't been focused specifically on the economy and economic messaging. So Republicans certainly think that the economy will be their calling card in this midterm, and they're going to point to this recent data. They also are concerned, though, about other things getting in the way of the messaging, particularly coming from the president.
Right. You know, it's a Gallup actually has a poll out, too, and U.S. satisfaction with our place in the world is as high as it's been in like over a decade. And by the same poll, though, only 25% are excited about President Trump's place in the world. So those two things have always been conflicting since he took office, though, Lee.
That's right. I mean, I think that what we have to understand is that the president came to power not necessarily because of his popularity, but because of the unpopularity of the establishment. People said, I want something different. I want someone who's going to keep his word. And they were willing to sacrifice some things that they typically would go for in order to have this kind of a president. They knew that he was crass. They knew that he uses tweet in some ways that offends people. They knew all of these things, but they said, look, we need someone who's going to keep his word. And the president has kept his word. And that's why you hear the vice president saying things like promises made, promises kept. And the American people are feeling the impact.
I will say one thing as a New Yorker, though, it's not crass. It's just New York honesty.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
You know, Chris, promises made, promises kept. The Supreme Court justice. In fact, I think there was one piece that compared President Trump's first year to Ronald Reagan's, and he actually ranked more conservative. But to win the independents, I feel like it's going to be the economy. The economy is firing on all cylinders. I thought it was interesting how Caitlin talked about how much money Republicans have to spend to convince people that they have more money in their pocket, and that's a good thing. That would seem like a natural, but that tells you that this will be an uphill climb still for the Republicans.
Well, it will. There's no question about that. I mean, what's driving the rebounding of Republican numbers, as was just mentioned, is the economy, it's the tax cuts, and that's become even more clear as those tax cuts come more into place and after April 15th. But as you mentioned, the challenge here is really independence. I mean, Democrats don't like Donald Trump. It's very rare for a president with this kind of economy to be this unpopular outside of wartime. And so that being the case, it's incumbent upon Republicans to make sure that they are motivating their base. And that's kind of the key factor of 2018. For Republicans to win, they've got to get Donald Trump and Mike Pence and other popular figures, the Ted Cruz's, the Marco Rubios, out in the field campaigning and getting Republicans excited. Because without that, you're going to see the same sort of thing happen that we've seen in special elections where Democrat turnout is out. We've seen it in Texas where early voting has started. Democrat turnout is up. So it's really incumbent upon the Republicans to get their base motivated and get them turned out in 2018.
The party that's out of favor always usually has the most motivation, though, right? I mean, that's historic, and we always see typically midterm losses, ladies. So the question is these other topics, you know, this week and for the rest of the year, school safety, taking care of our children, guns, the Me Too movement, all of these things are playing a role that makes this a little bit different, right, to handicap as opposed to other years when you would just mostly say it is the economy. Right, Caitlin?
Right. And you know, there are a lot of different issues. And the thing that we've seen over these special elections, over these off-year elections, is that Republicans are meeting their target numbers, but Democrats are overperforming their numbers. And there's this concern among Republicans about being caught off guard in some of these areas. I mean, we saw a special election for a Florida state legislator seat last week. Those kinds of things. Republicans I've talked to, though, say that they are prepared for this environment, that they know the headwinds are facing them because midterms are typically a referendum on the president and the party in power. Democrats I talked to also say that they have a lot of work to do in terms of keeping on the economic message.
They don't have an economic message, though. I mean, if Nancy Pelosi keeps calling these tax cuts crumbs,
that's right.
That's not even that having a message, Caitlin. She seems to really be dissing regular folks who are thrilled to get a $2,000 bonus.
And you've seen this divide in the party. You've seen some, think that she'll be a liability. Republicans I've been talking to think that she will be a top liability for Democrats running this year, especially since Democrats will be pointing to Donald Trump as their own boogeyman.
Right. Lee, let me also ask you then, all these Republicans not running for office again. I mean, and a lot of them are, some of them, their chairmanship ran out, maybe a little bit spoiled sport. They're going to take the ball and walk away with it. But I think we're over 40, right, who have chosen not to run, or they're going to run for a different office. Whatever it is, that's a huge void that you have to reintroduce a new candidate, find ways of raising money for that new candidate. In this sort of environment, that makes it a lot tougher, doesn't it?
It could make it a lot more difficult. But I think the thing that we're seeing right now is that there's a trend to non-traditional candidates. There's a trend to people looking for different solutions, to different ways of doing things, and saying, look, the way that we've been doing things in D.C. is broken. Drain the swamp. Let's bring in new candidates. And so to the extent that the Republican Party can play on that and say, we've heard you, that's what you want, we're bringing a whole new crop of people in that's going to meet these needs, it's going to keep their word, that's going to keep their promises, I think that's going to give them a good chance. I also think that this is a non-traditional time in general, so that anything that we say has happened before is likely to happen again. I'm not so sure that's true.
Right. And Chris, I think Vice President Pence sort of touched on that earlier this morning when he talked about 2016, sort of how they threw out the book, if you will, and how to run for office. And they're going to do the same thing with this midterm as well. Chris?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat it? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
turn the music on here.
Vice President Pence sort of alluded to the fact that the Republican Party were going to approach the midterms in an unorthodox fashion, the same way they did 2016.
Yeah, I think that would be a mistake. I mean, you can't run another campaign like 2016 was run. Hey, Donald Trump is a unique candidate, and he ran a unique campaign. And I think his comments are right. I mean, a lot of the votes for Donald Trump were against Hillary Clinton or against the way things have been done. And the fact is, Republicans have recruited a lot of non-traditional candidates. But really, the key aspect is getting back to off-year election is about bases. And the Democrat base is motivated. Republicans have got to motivate their base. They do it through issues. They do it through events. They do it through getting popular fish out in the field. And Donald Trump is popular with the Republican base. The more that he gets out, the more he can motivate Republicans, the bigger difference he'll have. But really what it gets down to is the fact that every Republican candidate needs to know exactly who his turnout targets are. Who is it that voted in 2016, maybe voted in 2014, but right now doesn't plan to vote in 2018? They need to get to know those people on a personal basis to get them out to vote, or it's going to be a bad election for Republicans because, exactly right, typically the party in power loses in off years, but you can stem that tide.
Lee, it sounds like a good old-fashioned, hitting the bricks, rolling up the sleeve and kissing a lot of babies.
It sounds like that, but I think we're going to have more grassroots and more movements that are happening towards this. I do think this is a very different time than we've seen before. I do think that the Republicans are probably going to lose some seats, but probably not as many as people are predicting, because
they lose control of the House?
I don't think they are going to lose control of the House. I think right now the Republicans have a very solid pro-America, pro-American, pro-hardworking American message, and that's one that's working. It's working with independents, and if you can keep those independents, and that's the 12% swing that we've been seeing in popularity, if the Republicans can keep those folks, I think they're going to keep a lot of seats.
I think it's also important to note that the map on the House side is very different from the map on the Senate side. So there are a lot of liabilities for Republicans on the House side because they're competing in California, New Jersey, other places that Hillary Clinton won. But also on the Senate side, you have a lot of Democrats up for re-election in states that Trump won overwhelmingly. Right. And you're seeing Republicans start to fill in.
They have already started to target those. All right, guys, thank you all very much.